All right, Tom, our next question is just a very whimsical one, and that is, what about colors in consciousness? We have colors here, this virtual reality. Would it have to be another virtual reality in which we would experience these sometimes very dramatic, very unusual colors
Well,
that
yes,
we
it
see?
would. You see, you can't, if you experience any time you experience anything, if you're having an experience, then you are in a virtual reality. If you are outside of all virtual realities, then you have no experience. You're just potential. You're not learning, you're not growing, you're not de-evolving, you're not evolving. You're just a piece of potential doing nothing, unused, unactivated, can we say, non-functioning. Okay, so if you can experience color, then yes, you're in a virtual reality. Virtual realities have rule sets, and the color you see has limits according to those rules and rule sets. Now, color plays a role in consciousness that we give it, but it's not a fundamental role. It's a role that we create for it. We create color as tools. For instance, if you talk to healers, they will heal with either white light or light green. You know, light green is supposed to be a healing color. Purple is supposed to be a color that reflects the high or low of your entropy, whether you're a very spiritual being or not, the purple. The lighter colors are better. The darker colors are not as good generally. So if what you see in your aura is black and dark greens and dark browns, then that's a person who's upset and angry and not doing very good. So we have all these colors that show up, but these colors are kind of a tool that we create. I talk about tools. Tools are things that we create in our own minds that help us understand the things that we're looking at. So these colors have been seen, okay, by clairvoyants, right? They see colors. Any clairvoyant will see objects. You generally see them in colors. But the colors they see are part of a collective consciousness, such that even if you had never seen any of those books that describe these colors, you'd still probably pick those colors when you do your own investigation, just because it's part of the collective consciousness. You'd probably pick those colors anyway. But there's nothing really fundamental about green and healing and white and healing and black and anger. There's nothing really fundamental about that. It's it's kind of a language that we have created. The bad guys in the movies have to wear black hats and the good guys wear white hats. And we think of white as pure. Uh, Actually, white is probably depending on how you define pure, it's kind of the least pure of all the colors because white is all the colors. All the frequencies all jammed together. That's white. So it's got every color in it, which doesn't make it a pure color. It makes it a smash up of all the colors. But in any case, we think of white as pure. So virgin brides always wear their white dresses, to their weddings as a symbol of purity. And it's just a cultural thing. And some of it, the culture, can even be human culture. It doesn't have to be just national cultures. It can be human cultures. It can span lots of different national cultures or different peoples that we have these colors. But there's no real strong fundamental things about colors. They just are. There are different ways that we can see things as part of the rule set. That's about it. It's not that some colors are better than others.
Right, and those are the things that we're used to perceiving. But in your consciousness exploration, have you experienced any kinds of different colors that we would not recognize, very unusual colors.
Now,
How does that work?
I'm Tom Campbell. I'm glad you're here. I hope you're enjoying the content. If you do like our content, then you should consider being a Patreon member because Patreon members get early access to our special content. You will also be able to get your questions answered by me in special Q&A sessions just for the Patreon members. And most importantly, your contribution as a patron member will enable us to produce the content that you're looking for. So thank you.
Yeah, what you generally experience, what I have generally experienced, you go places, sometimes the colors are what we might call more saturated. You know, if you talk about a saturated color, it's a red that's redder than red. You know, it's a saturated red color, redness, you know, to the nth degree. And we call those saturated colors. Colors can be very bright, like our colors are reflected colors. Light reflects off things. Some of the light gets absorbed, the rest of the light gets reflected. So if you're looking at a green leaf, then the light hits it. The white light has all the colors in it. They all get absorbed except for green. Green gets reflected. So we look at it and say, oh, look, a green leaf. You see, that's how the colors work. So we see reflected light as colors. Just light itself is always white because it's got all the colors in it, all the frequencies are in it. When you are out of body, sometimes you see colors that actually come from within the object. They're not just reflected. And those colors that come from within the object, it's like an luminescent thing. You know, like if you look at the colors on a neon sign, you know, you're not seeing reflected colors. You're seeing the color that comes from within the sign, from within the gas inside the little glass tubes. So sometimes in out of bodies, it's like that. It's the luminosity is, it's not reflected colors like we have. It's luminous colors. Another thing besides saturation and luminosity is that the colors can be extremely bright. All the colors are very bright colors. So if you go to your camera, you know, in your Zoom camera, and if you get controls to where you can control brightness and you control density and you control, you know, all these various parameters that have to do with color, those are the kinds of things that you see when you're out of body. They're all reflected colors. They're not luminosity so much, is what they're trying to mimic. But of course, when you look at your TV screen, those are luminous colors. You're getting little, you know, bits of, you know, of green light are coming from the leaves behind me here, and from the blue of your jacket. You know, we interpret them as reflected colors, but the really colors are coming from that source. So in any case, it doesn't have any real fundamental meaning, but we have created some fundamental meanings out of it. Yellow is supposed to be intelligence, and browns are heaviness, not light. Pastel colors are better than heavy dark colors, and that's just our propensity to have light is better. You know, dark is evil things that always come out of the dark.
Right.
You know, the
When
light is
you
where all the good things are. You know, we have this real bias toward colors, but that's just cultural. Like I say, it could be human culture. It's not necessarily tied to specific peoples, but it's just sort of the way we
Well, say for
interpret
instance
things.
you visited, as you have mentioned, several other PMRs, other virtual realities. Is there a diversity of colors that aren't known here? What have you experienced as far as color?
Well, all the variations in color I just explained, but no, I wouldn't say that I experienced new colors, except in the way that we mix and match colors. You know, if you go to you know, the ladies department and look at all the colors for, you know, for nails, you'll see there's not just, you know, three primary colors. You know, there's like 1,000 different colors. And every brand makes up their own colors and gives them their own name. So there's lots and lots of colors that you can mix and match, and there's basically an infinite number of those, if you want to say that, that they spread all over. But to find something that's not part of that palette, that's not anything to do with the red, green, or what is it, yellow, red, blue, the primary colors, has nothing to do with that, or black. It's something different. No, I've not seen anything any different. And if I did, I probably wouldn't know how to interpret it. It would probably be, what's that? I wouldn't see it as a color because I've learned what colors are, and my colors
Yeah.
can all be reduced to red, blue, and yellow.
Your own experience. Those are the ones
my own experience. That's
you're
color.
interpreting what
Yeah,
you know, what you're interpreting what you see, the information you're getting by what
exactly.
you know.
Exactly. So you wouldn't
Okay.
know it anyway, but you do see all these variations in the luminosity and
Hmm.
density and in brightness and all the ways that we can manipulate color. And in that way,
Yeah.
yes, there's literally, billions of colors, many of them just a tiny little bit different, than the next,
Mhm.
but there's lots of colors. So sometimes it's brighter. Everything's more colorful. The sky's a deeper blue, the trees are a deeper green. Sometimes you see places like that, but that's just your interpretation of that space. And you may get that color because you have a feeling that this is a very special place. So how do you make it a special place?
Right.
Well, you color it beautifully. That makes it a special place. So you add that yourself in order to describe the place that you're in. You may not have really gotten any of that color to begin with in your data stream. That's part of what you add in your effort to try to put it into terms that are meaningful to you here and in your language, whatever that language is. So most of that color comes from us adding it in from our experience.
Interesting.
Yeah.
It reminds me of the movie What Dreams May Come, where the clinical evidence that they put together to present the movie in a certain way. It was all true, but the characters were conglomerates of different things and the experiences were conglomerates of different things. One of the things like that was just as you described, very vivid colors in an out of body kind of state.
Hmm.
So I just thought that was a fun little comment that was made at one of our events, and I thought it would make a good question.
Here's an interesting thing is that after you've been around a while and you've been doing out of body for 50 years or so, and it's not a new zowie thing, it's just there, it's just like dirt. It's nothing exciting. It's just something that's available to you. You see less and less color. And that's because it's not that the color's there. The color is something you add to it to help you describe how amazing it was. It's something that we color it for the most part. So once you've been around a long time, you'll find out that you don't even find shapes that much. When you're newer at this, if you're talking to something, it has a shape. It almost always is humanoid shape because that's what you're used to talking to. So that's what you make. And that shape generally could be male, could be female, it could be dressed in certain ways, but eventually you let all that stuff go. That's you dressing up a character because that helps you explain that character to yourself in your own language. It gives the character personality. Eventually, you don't have characters, you don't have images, you don't have much color. You just communicate telepathically. You just interact, you get information that is of interest to you, meaningful information, but all the other things like what's in the environment, what was the surrounding environment like, but what did the trees look like and so on. Were there any trees? And all of that stuff is stuff that you generally make up to put in your picture to make it seem meaningful in your own experience. So as you get more and more used to it, even the idea of colors and people start to disappear. It's
Thank
just
you.
information.
It's just data.
Yeah.
Thank you, Tom.